Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and a tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to another Roll20 review, my written and video review series, where I take a look at the marketplace section of online role-playing website, Roll20.net. With this video, I'll be reviewing the monster book Dragonix's Deadly Denizens, designed by Dragonix Books for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. This review has been sponsored by the publisher. If you enjoy these videos, consider supporting me via patreon.com/Rogue Watson. By the way, we're looking at the Roll20 version of Lost Mine of Phandelver in the Red Brand Hideout, one of my favorite dungeons, which is what I use to also show off the Monster Manual Expanded. Speaking of Monster Manual Expanded, if you don't know who Dragonix is, you bloody well should, because it's the designer behind the amazing Monster Manual Expanded series available on the DM's Guild and also on Roll20. Absolutely must-have monster books, expand all of the monsters that are already in the 5th edition monster manual into new versions and variants and greater versions and lesser versions and legendary action versions and all these different things into, and including a bunch of all new monsters as well. Deadly Denizens is basically Dragonix making a monster book that is not on the DM's Guild, meaning no access to any of the official IP creatures, but that still gives you a lot of just generic monster creatures that you can work with. So it's it's a lot of more original content. It's a lot of like we take two different monsters and mash them together, which is kind of funny, like a Dr. Moreau, Mad Island scientist kind of a maneuver. And it's got some more, NPC stat blocks, some more animals and creatures. All told, it is hundreds of new monsters. It is also available on Drive-Thru RPG, but for the purposes of this review, we're going to be looking at it through Roll20 because, as you can see, it is also available just natively in the Roll20 marketplace. You don't actually have to purchase this one via, the Drive-Thru RPG or anything. It's just right there in the Roll20 marketplace. So what do you get if you get the Dragonix's Deadly Denizens? Bonus points for the alliteration also. You get the Compendium expansions. The way Roll20 works is when you buy monster books, they now appear in your Compendium, which I will show you how that works. But they're available in the main website, which we'll also be looking at it through there, as well as in every game that you create. You can then drag and drop the monsters on there. There are over 300 monsters included in this monster book. So basically the same size, I believe, as any one of the Monster Manual Expanded books. Although I will say the monsters kind of come in threes. So in terms of unique creatures with their own art, you probably want to divide that number by 3 to actually get like the true number of creatures. But you could look at it cynically and say, oh, I'm really only getting this many creatures. Or you could look at it and say, holy shit, I'm getting 100 creatures. But it just so happens that they're all given multiple variants that I can use with different levels of creatures, and maybe sometimes when he's a boss version of that creature or whatever else, I'm actually getting this many as like a bonus thing. That's the more optimistic way of looking at it, I think. And you could make an argument for both, but I would definitely err on the latter one and say this is a ton of content. You also get the token art pack included, which I'll show you what that looks like. But basically, you can have all the tokens appear in your art gallery. Same thing, it appears in every single game that you actually fire up with Roll20. So what it's going to look like in the Compendium, which is actually going to be probably the easiest way to look at it, even though my overlay might look a little funky without the full Roll20 interface in front of you. But I think exploring it via the Compendium is actually going to be a lot easier, and you can't see it, but I have a million tabs located on the top of the screen for a lot of the different creatures that I want to look at. But this is a way, by the way, you can always go to tools and then click on Compendium, and then you'll have to just click on whatever compendiums you own, and then you can enter into individual source books, which allows you to actually and probably more efficiently read through and look at any of your compendium stuff that's not a straight up adventure that's going to appear in your journal entries. I find it can actually be a lot easier because I don't actually review a whole lot of compendium stuff when it comes to Roll20. I'm usually reviewing adventure, so that's why we're in the the actual Roll20 adventure screen. But here with the compendium, I think it's actually easier to look at it on this screen, and then I'll show you what all the actual tokens and things look for. So in terms of the creatures that we've got here, which, by the way, you can look at the opening page is the bestiary right here, a little bit of a introduction. It includes templates for certain kinds of creatures. And then a whole bunch of new creatures with new variants, as I mentioned. So the templates are going to be Abyssal, Infernal, Half Dragon, and Vampiric. The designer uses a different word for it, but it's basically Vampiric. Another tough word I'm going to pronounce. Vrykalakas, which sounds cool, but it's vampiric. And what those templates are, it's kind of like, I think there's a zombie template available in the Monster Manual, for example, that like tells you, okay, here's how to zombify a creature by making these adjustments. So it's the same thing here. It's like, here's how to create these kinds of creatures. So for example, to make a creature into a half dragon, you can take any base creature, which it of course only mentions the SRD because it doesn't have access to all the official stuff. But you modify, in this case, the alignment becomes dragon, the armor class gets increased, the speed gains a flying speed, abilities and saving throws and proficiencies all go up. It gains blind sight up to a certain amount depending on the size of the dragon. It's got resistances depending on what kind of dragon it is. And it gains a breath weapon attack, and all of these things are, of course, going to increase the challenge rating of this creature. And an example of a half dragon could be, for example, a half dragon black minotaur, which again comes in 3 different flavors because that's what they do in this book. And it basically just combines the stats of the minotaur, which has like the charge, the labyrinthine recall, like a multi-attack with a bite and gore, or with the gore, the great axe and the gore, sorry. And then the dragon part is what gives them the bite, the wing bash, and the acid breath. So it just combines all those stats together. Now you may be thinking, well, like anybody can do that. Anybody can take 2 creatures and combine them together. Like, well, maybe, but this also creates what looks like a pretty balanced mix if you were to combine those creatures. And also we get some awesome token art to go with it. And with the more powerful creatures, we do get layer actions and legendary actions and all that excellent fun stuff. One unique one, though, that really made my jaw drop was the half-white dragon Triceratops. So if you just take a Triceratops and also make it a dragon, which is a pretty unique stat block, but I thought this one was particularly memorable because it has literally all the things when it comes to speed. Speed of 50 feet, a burrow of 40 feet, a fly of 40 feet, and a swim speed of 40 feet. This thing can really get around, but it's got the trampling charge, the gore attack from the Triceratops, but then it's got the bite and the cold breath from the dragon, of course, the wings and all that fun stuff. So really interesting way to make creatures into different versions with the templates. And of course, the Abyssal and the Infernal are all just different, demon or devil versions of creatures. And it takes a lot of creatures from the Monster Manual, but like the creatures you can use from the Monster Manual. So like ogres and trolls and manticores, Medusa, anything that's not like owned by a wizard. So like I don't know what a Mind Flare Beholder and those kind of things. So it gives you a lot of examples in addition to having the template. So that's pretty cool. I like that. The other thing we got is just new creatures in general. So running through real quick, we've got Gorlings, which are like monster goat people. The Afanks, which are like beaver wolverines. There's a lot of 2 things combined into one. The Cacus, which is a tricky word to say in English, I think. Did I save that one on here? I thought I did. Let me check my tabs up here. It's a Minotaur Centaur. God, I've got too many. I might have to just open more tabs. There it is. Cacus. Yep. It is, yeah. So it's like, which I don't even know how you combine a Minotaur and a Centaur because it's still like a Centaur, perhaps. Has some pretty cool, like, fire breath, fiery rock it can throw, and just the charge attack. And these are pretty beefy. I think, in fact, the Cacus, this is the weakest version, is a CR12. So it's already like a giant sized Minotaur with the lower half of a bull. So neat idea there. But we can look at the, let's see, let's go back to the actual Roll20 screen. Where did I put you, Roll20? There you are. And look at some of my favorite creatures from this section. So a lot of these are original creatures. You can see there's our friend, the half black dragon minotaur champion or something. And how they appear in Roll20 in terms of having their token art and everything all set up. So we can grab them like here from our Compendium, which is our tab up at the top. What I've done here with Roll20, thanks to a recent update within the last year or so, you can actually filter by source. So you can just select Dragonix's Deadly Denizens, and then return. Oops, I backed up too many. And then you would, well, we're going to see it right now since I backed up too far. So there we go. We're going to check that. We're going to hit apply, and then it's going to pull all those creatures right here on this side of the screen. They're always in alphabetical order, which is why I found it kind of easier. I don't think there's a way to switch it off alphabetical because unfortunately the way the creatures are organized, it's like, let's see, let's go back to this screen and show you how it's organized. So it'd be like, what's a good example? Well, the dragons are all like young, adult, and ancient. So the young isn't going to be anywhere near the adult, right? Because it'll be down with the Y for young. So they're not organized by like this, this very first word. So it can be a little tricky to try to find all the creatures when they're put together. Here's a good example: the Hydralisk. Hydralisk is from StarCraft, isn't it? Right? I'm not crazy. I didn't have a stroke. Like in here, it's not a it's a Hydra thing. But Hydralisk is from it's the like tier 2 creature that can do the spine attack. I think that's a Hydralisk. Shout out to StarCraft. But you can drag them from this compendium screen, and then they'll populate in your journal like so. As you can tell, this is the video I made, the same game I made the Monster Manual Expanded video for. And then once they're populated in there, you can drag, drop, copy, paste, whatever you need to work with. Shift click to open the character sheet. We've got the amazing art here. All the information is already set up in the character sheet. And just like that, everything is going to work exactly like how you want it. Ooh, nat 20 on the half black dragon minotaur. That's going to be a nasty hit right there. Some of my other favorite creatures, because usually the best way to kind of review these monster books is to go over just the creatures I think are kind of fun and interesting. The desert drakes. There's a lot of drakes in this book. If we go to, let's see, does it have a drake section, or is it just, I think there's a drake section. Let's see, drake, evil, dragon, drakes. Here we go. Drakes are wingless and lower level dragons, more like kind of feral dragons that are smaller and don't have wings, but still look cool and have kind of like the elemental abilities of dragons. And I appreciate it, instead of just like young red drake or young green drake, it's like, well, it's young magma drake and young swamp drake or mountain drake and ice drake and all that kind of thing. So that part's pretty cool. And I think the desert drake especially is very neat looking. I always thought it was weird that blue dragons were the ones that seemed to like the desert the most, even though they seem like they were more oceany. Actual sand breath here, which does acid damage and kind of debuffs you as a tail swipe reaction. It just seems like a little more interesting than what you would think of kind of a standard wingless dragon stat block. Krampus, the 2 holiday creatures I want to point out here. Krampus is of course a demon from like Christmas stories, even though it's not, I don't think it's ever mentioned here, but the designer kind of dances around how it's got these like bells and like a red coat and all of this. I love this artwork, is kind of amazing. This creature looks terrifying. And Krampus is of course all about stealing children and tricking them instead of, giving them gifts and stuff. So all of his abilities have to do with like grappling and grabbing you, including a 15-foot long chain. And then once he's grabbed or grappled you, he can then imprison you in a cage behind his back, and has a lot of pain in the ass abilities like fog cloud, invisibility, spider climb, just to get around. I probably would have given him like at will misty step, but that's just evil. So I think that's a really cool, neat stat block idea there. The Kumiho is the nine-tail. It's a very sexy and disturbing picture, kind of both. Scaroused, I think, is the word that we use. This is the nine-tails fox spirit from Chinese mythology. The Kitsune, I think, from Japanese. In fact, I think Kumiho might be Korean for the fox spirit, maybe. And it has like a lot of the cool like charming abilities. It's basically like a succubus style creature, right? It pretends to be a different kind of creature and then can lure people and charm them, and then tries to eat their heart out as it does. So it has a lot of charming abilities and just some really powerful pounce attacks, although only a CR2 for the base version. But again, these all come with different variants as well, and you can get bigger and crazier versions, which I have to decide which my best example to show that off is. The Jack-o'-lantern is not too much like the Scarecrow, which I think there is a Scarecrow in the Monster Manual. This one has Misty Step, bonus action, hell yeah, has a reaction, has a terrifying glare where it can frighten and paralyze its targets, and also has some pretty nasty spells with Suggestion, Hideous Laughter, Phantasmal Killer. Those are all pretty crazy, powerful spells for our Jack-o'-lantern friend. I might use that one to show off some of the different variants also. No, actually, I'm going to use the Tarrasca, not to be confused with the Tarrasque. The Tarrasca is a combination bear, turtle, scorpion, I think. Again, the theme of having different monsters and putting them together in very funny ways, like the Triceratops dragon. It really feels like it's middle school, like jotting things down in class just because you got some cool ideas, which, hell, that's where a lot of cool monster ideas come, right? This thing, and I think the Elder that we're looking at, yeah, so this is actually a stronger version. So if we look at the basic Tarrasca, which is this one, so we're going back out to the Compendium, the base version is a CR6 and includes a bite attack, which can, I don't know if it actually, does it grapple? It does grapple them, okay, and it just keeps biting them basically, which I think more big creatures should have. It always feels weird when they bite you and they're like, all right, and then it just kind of bites you. It doesn't, but like, I picture like little like biting and like, you know, doing like a dog would do and just not letting go, basically, ragdolling the PC. Sting has a pretty nasty like wyvern style stinger with the poison damage on the tail, and then a poison breath, kind of like an iron golem or something. We're just gonna expel this horrifying poison breath. And also if the it can do it while biting somebody, while grappling them, and then they have disadvantage on the saving throw because they're right freaking there in the mouth. So that's awesome. That's a CR6 large turtle monster creature, right? The Elder version is a upgraded CR11, has almost twice the hit points. I think, does the other one have multi-attack? It does have multi-attack. Okay, so there's a bite and a sting. This one has also has the bite and the sting attack. Obviously, all the numbers have been jacked up. The big difference, though, is this one can swallow, which is a lot of bigger creatures like the Froghemoth and like just large-ass creatures. When they bite you, they can then do the swallow like action the next turn if they're still biting you, and then they have to start taking like acid damage every turn, and you can try to have them spit them out by doing enough damage. So we've seen this mechanic before in other kinds of creatures. And then there is the ancient, that's where I had tabs open for this creature, the ancient Tarrasca, which is now a CR19 creature, has almost 3 times the hit points of that original CR6 version, has legendary resistance. Now it has multi-attack, which includes its bite, sting, and 2 claw attacks. So now it's got 4 attacks per round. Still obviously has the swallow ability, the poison breath, and now it's got legendary actions, including being able to swallow as a legendary action. So that's really helpful because you could bite somebody and then literally just swallow them in the same round. And also optional layer actions if you wanted to use them. One of them just regains 30 hit points. Damn, so that's pretty cool. That is one creature. That's an example, right? One creature that starts up at CR6 that has multiple variants going up. And they all kind of work like this, where basically the creature starts off at, you know, level 6 or 7 or 4 or something, and then it will have an upgraded version, which is somewhere usually around late tier 2 or maybe early tier 3. And then it'll have the legendary version, which is a full-on boss monster that's got all the legendary actions and everything that you would expect. So I think that's a really cool thing to include because like this Tarrasca I was looking at, man, what a neat idea, but it seems like one of those big like zombie turtle type creatures I don't want to throw at my party. Well, I've got that option, right? If I want to use the ancient one, I can absolutely throw that at the party. So pretty cool idea to have the different variants. Haghead Creeper is this creepy one you've been seeing down here, which literally is the head of a hag on its body. Apparently if a hag dies and the conditions are correct, and it can form like this creature underneath the actual dead body of the hag. And so it's like corpse becomes this nasty like frog-like creature, which has a chance to always frighten people, kind of like the Umber Hulk or Medusa, where they always have something that the players have to like avert their eyes for specifically or be affected by. In this case, it's just a frighten, which is, you know, frighten's nasty, but what it can do then as an action, if somebody's frightened, it can do this death glare, which instantly drops somebody to 0 hit points. So that's pretty scary. And also it can do the bite and swallow thing, so it kind of has it all included in there, which is fun. Now, as much as I love these creatures, and these ones specifically, I did have a complaint here, and that is, unfortunately, something I kind of noticed a little bit with the monster manual on Roll20, and that's the token art. I love the artwork. We already pointed out the artwork for several of these creatures, right? It looks fantastic. And I love that when you actually go to the sheet, you can see the artwork in the huge bio and info tab, right? It's all right there. So you can easily take this and open a new tab, save it, throw it on there as a handout or something. Unfortunately, that's not baked into Roll20 with the Compendium feature, but if you wanted to use that creature, that's something I would do so that you have the ability to share that, just this image with your party once they're actually fighting the creature. And the reason I would especially do that is because I don't want to show the entire art in the token. This is something I have a bit of a problem with, that whoever did the token art for this product, and in fact, I have a few examples I can show you. The half black dragon here, this is not a good piece of token art, and it only looks okay because it's so big. If it was this size, this would not be very good at all, because I think the way you do token art is you want to focus on the face as much as possible, and then maybe do, like the shoulders or a torso or something. You don't want to try to cram the entire creature into the token, especially if it's a smaller, medium-sized token. If you start getting larger, you can maybe get away with that. So Krampus, I think, is still, I wouldn't want to fit this whole thing in the token, but at least it's not, this size, and you really can't tell what the hell you're looking at from here. I want your players to zoom in. So I've got examples because I literally did the work. I changed it myself, just throwing it on there. Now, I don't have the cool ability of going through the layers real quick and putting, I really like the way they pop out of some of the tokens, for example. In fact, if I hit, there we go, Z, you can see how the token looks with it looks like it's 3D and kind of popping out with like shadow box effect. I think that looks amazing. That's cool. But I still think it's worth being able to zoom in. So the way I changed it is with this one. If I can get it out. Well, hopefully you can see it okay from here. With this creature, what I should just do is turn off dynamic lighting in here. That would probably help things a little bit. Let's turn that off for a second. There we go. All right, so here's my version and here's the original version. So this is what I'm talking about when I say my preferred token art. And you can see around you, another reason I chose this map, because it's a good example of that, right? It doesn't try to show the entire skeleton in this token. It doesn't try to show these entire characters. For NPCs especially, they just focus on the faces. And it works out really well. And, the players can, it's part of the imagination of the game, they can kind of draw in the spaces there. So I think that's what I'm looking for. The jack-o'-lantern here, same thing. It can be improved. Here's my improved option where it just focuses on that cool jack-o'-lantern head. The Kumiho, you really can't even see what the hell's going on in this token unless I blow it up, which I can blow it up and you're going to be like, okay, now I see what's going on here. Okay. But then if I do this, I think that's still an improvement. It focuses on the creature itself. You can still see the blood. Hopefully I included some tails. The ears are there. It's got the main part in there. So there is an art form to using the art in Roll20. And I didn't want to go off on too much of a rant about this, but it does matter, right? Especially if this product, which is specifically I'm reviewing it for Roll20, you're wanting to use this token art for these monsters, and that's what represents them on your battlefield. So it's kind of a big deal, and that's what you end up using. So for me, to use some of these creatures, I may actually want to redo some of the art, and that is a big thumbs down for this product, unfortunately. Now, that's not always the case. This Drake, I would not redo. I think it's perfectly fine. Thankfully, it's a bigger one, and thankfully, a lot of the monsters are bigger. The Traska, I don't think I would need to redo because it's so big. But again, if it were this size, I might think about redoing it, for example. I don't know. It gets a little tricky, but certainly all the medium ones, and like this guy, I just like this one better in general. And I could make the effort to change the actual token art color if I wanted to, but this is just the basic bare bones here. So I wanted to throw that out there. It does seem a little bit of a bummer that we didn't get to use, or I get wanting to use all of the artwork for the token, right? Because it looks awesome. But you've already got that in the bio and info tab. You can share it as a handout. To me, I would rather have that as an available feature, which it is, but then give me some better token art that just focuses on the main part of the creature, and that shows up, I think, better as a token. And there's some that are just some that do this a lot better than others, and I don't know. I think it's unfortunately a problem throughout this compendium, which is a big bummer. The other things these include, I want to point out the cover creature too. Shoot, where is that one? This guy. The Teju Jagua, no idea how to pronounce it. It looks like kind of a cross between like a hyena and a hydra, but what it actually is a cross between a hydra and a beholder, sort of. All of the eyes of this creature can fire beams, but they're not, unlike a beholder where all the beams like do different things. These all do damage, It's just that each of them is a different element of damage, and they all have some kind of extra debuff to go with it. So a little bit different than a Beholder, but this artwork is just absolutely insane. I fucking love it. As you can tell, this was the commissioned cover art for sure. So that's the Teju Jagua. I don't know how to pronounce that creature, but I thought it was a neat idea. I think that's most of the ones. Frostbite's a good example of a creature that I thought does have good token art. So this one correctly, emphasized on the good part of the creature. Here's another creature that has Hydras. A lot of Hydra type creatures. Naja Hydra, which basically like a Hydra, except it can spit acid, I believe. Let's see, the Karkin Collis. Which one was this? This was a troll creature. Also good Yeti art. So here we go. Token art. Did not try to include the whole artwork in the token, just the creature itself. So it's not all of them. It's just unfortunately enough of them that, really annoyed me. Before we wrap this up, though, I do want to look at the NPCs. So there was a whole section down here. So this is all just new monsters here, right? And then we scroll down, and we've got some new animal creatures, which are like, the ones you would see at the end of the monster manual. A lot of these, unfortunately, don't have artwork, but that's okay. And then we've got NPCs, which some of the monster manual expanded stuff did have NPC stuff in there. And I think as much as they're not as exciting or thrilling as the actual monster creatures, like that hag head fucking thing, these are very useful because I think a lot of DMs, and once you start playing a lot of D&D, you realize you need a lot of just people stat blocks. And gosh, we all get sick of using the same bandits, the same thugs, the same cultists, right? Like you want some different things to throw at your party that are ultimately just, villainous bad guys without being actual monsters. And I think this one does a great job with that. It really feels inspired from player character classes, especially. So like the Beastmaster and the Sniper are basically rangers, using different styles and paths of the ranger. The Beastmaster especially, this is actually the Elite Beastmaster, Elite Bastard, that's a little bit stronger, the CR6. I think he's the mid variant. Has some spell casting, obviously ranger spells, can command the beast, but it's baked into the multi-attack, which is a key. So it's supposed to be paired with some kind of beast form, and then they can make the multi-attack as well as command their beast to do anything, or the beast can have a reaction ability as well, where the Beastmaster gets hit and the creature comes up and like tries to attack. Basically, I'm picturing, what is it, John Wick 3, I think, with Halle Berry. Like, we all want to have that kind of creature, but now you can fight against that creature as well. Here's an example of the Toximancer, which is a sorcerer who specializes in poison spells, acid spells, not just poison. Both of them, I guess, but joke's on them because a lot of creatures are immune to poison. But anyway, I appreciate that the designer knows that, let's not give them just a dagger and a bunch of spells. Let's actually give them, which is modern 5e design of giving those spellcasters like actions that are spell attacks, essentially. So you're never not casting like cool spells and abilities in addition to having, actual spell casting at your fingertips. So a lot of great, almost 20, I believe, of these NPC stat blocks that are some really interesting ideas. And you can have boss versions of all these different characters, which have the legendary actions and all that good stuff baked in there. All right, let's go over my pros and cons for Dragonix's Deadly Denizens. Pro, over 100 unique creatures and over 300 total stat blocks. And pro, almost every new creature has multiple stat block variants. And typically they are a base version, a greater version, and a legendary version. That legendary version has the layer actions and the legendary actions and is your big boss monster. That's a really cool way of designing it. I believe a lot of the Monster Manual expanded stuff is like that, especially because obviously the base monster already existed. So Monster Manual expanded series just took, okay, let's make like greater versions or lesser versions or just different versions of those creatures. So like, why not do that here? Even if you've got original ideas for creatures, like, let's just make those different variants, and then it feels like you get even more creatures, which is how I would look at it. I wouldn't look at it, I guess I said it badly before, it's like divided by 3 for actual monsters. I'll be like, no, all right, here's 100 monsters, and now multiply it, which is a huge number, and now multiply it by 3 because you've got all these new variants and versions of those monsters. Pro, 19 unique NPC stat blocks, many inspired by player classes. I do not want to gloss over how just incredibly useful it is. Even though they're not the sexiest monsters or most exciting around, I think they are, for the most part, baked in with some really cool ideas and they just take a lot of player character class abilities, although some are really more interesting, like the Abyssal Knight or something has like spectral abilities or something. But like some of them are just like high-powered bards, or mages that specialize in certain elements, or like I said, the ranger having some cool NPC stat blocks. There's plenty of room for that, and I think that they get a lot of use at the table. Pro templates for creating infernal, fiendish, vampiric, and half-dragon monsters. We've seen some cool ideas with how it does those, especially the half-dragons really go kind of nuts and create some absolutely just insane artwork as well. There's the half blue dragon, which is like, yep, that's what that creature would look like. And pro appendices organized by the CR rating and environment, which is something we don't. I almost glossed over because I'm looking at the compendium and not flipping through the book. But obviously, the book and everything is by it's alphabetical. I don't know if you can unfortunately refilter it once it's in the game. Once it's in here, I'm not sure if we can filter the order of it, but at least when we're in the compendium section, we can click on either of these and you'll see them by environment or by CR rating. And actually, I was very impressed when I went to environment. It was pretty dang even when it came to like all the different biomes. So Badlands, Arctic, Ethereal, Forest. I think Underwater was the only one that was a little bit smaller, but even then there was a pretty good amount of content in there. So that's nice to see. And pretty good CR. Obviously, most of them are CR1 or above, but it did seem to have a nice variety in there. And then my only con is the one thing I complained about for this video, which is that the token art, some of it is just too tiny and kind of cramming too much of the image into the token, and I think that ends up being a bit of a bummer for a lot of the tokens, because that's a big part of what you're getting this product for in Roll20. Final verdict: with Deadly Denizens, Dragonix has crafted yet another must-have monster book, expanding onto original creations while maintaining the successful templates, versions, and variants format. Thank you to everyone for watching this video review. You can watch more reviews and follow our own D&D adventures here on the channel and support my work at patreon.com/RogueWatson. Shoutouts to Platinum patrons: Joe, Will, Thomas, Stan, Brennan, Zensetter, Eclectic, Roleplay Earl, Christopher, Corey, Big Nut, John F., John L., Eric, Tyler, Nathan, Crystal Counselor, Andrew, Daryl, the Reldron, Captain Woody 79, Stephanie, Andy, Patrick, Jason, Ismail, Amit, Limpy, Spud, Sharni, David, and William. Gold patrons: RPG Paper Crimes, Pretty Boy, Andy, Yuma, The Lizard Lounge, Sam, Jerome, Nathan, Fast Like a Tortoise, Scott, Rufus, Carolyn, Jerry, Thomas, Glenn, Marcus, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support.